Hello everyone, welcome to Team Atlas. My name is Scott and today we're going to be doing some modern. Before we get started, I want to just remind you that all of our content and videos are brought to you by atlascollectables.com, your source for the cheapest trading card prices on the net. And so we are looking at Infect. This is a deck that I have a little bit of experience in. I played it a couple of big tournaments prior to the Gitaxian Probe banning. Now that Gitaxian Probe is banned, I am very curious as to whether or not this deck can still function. I believe it can. Is still anything that can kill you on turn two is going to be incredibly strong in my books, even though you can't look at your opponent's hand, add a card to the yard, and cycle. It's for free. I still think this deck can function well. So this is a build that I came up with, and essentially it wasn't too hard to come up with it. You take out 4 Git probes, and you add 4 other cards. I would also like to clarify that the card is pronounced Gitaxian Probe, not Gitaxian Probe, the same way that Gideon is not pronounced Gideon. Okay, now that we've cleared that up, we'll just start with the mana base really quick. Play a series of 9 fetches, all of which fetch for green. Makes things much cleaner. 2 Burning Pool, 2 Forest, nothing fancy there. 2 Pendlehaven, Pendlehaven pretty standard, and then 4 Inkmoth Nexus as our one of our 3 Infect creatures. Now, obviously, the bread and butter of the deck, we have 4 copies of Blighted Agent. Obviously, the best thing to play on turn 2. 4 copies of Glistener Elf, giving you the possibility of the turn 2 kill, and then one of the best cards in the deck, Noble Hierarch. Turn 1 Noble Hierarch is always something that you want to look for. So now we get into some of the things that replace Gitaxian Probe. So prior to the banning, I always played 4 Mutagenic Growth, 4 Might of Volcarosa, and 4 Vines of Vastwood. I'll get to Become Immense in a second. So these 3 were always in playsets, and then we had a playset of Gitaxian Probes. I was a big fan of Groundswell even before the banning, so I played anywhere between 2 to 3 copies of that. I have added the 4th now. Blossoming Defense. Again, I was a 1 to 3 copies of Blossoming Defense prior to the banning. Now it is the full playset. It's just it's great to have some extra protection with Vines of Vastwood, and then getting in the last bit of damage as well. These 4 slots right here, they're what I like to refer to in the deck as the flex slots. I like having one of each of these main board and then having access to more of them in the sideboard, depending on the type of matchups that we can get. 1 Dismember main board, just very clean removal spell. We don't really care about our life total. 1 Distortion Strike for decks that clog up the ground. 1 Spell Pierce to deal with pesky walkers, especially Liliana. That card is a nightmare for us. And 1 Twisted Image for any main board spell skites or noble hierarchs. Apostle's Blessing is a card that has recently, especially since the printing of Blossoming Defense, hasn't seen much play in the deck. I've decided to go back to it. Seems fairly straightforward. Take a card that used to be good in the deck and put it back in when we have some room to play with. Interesting note, this especially even though Golgari Grave Troll is banned, I still expect to see Dredge being played. It's a pretty, you can check out Jeremy's article on the website. He goes really in depth as to how to make Dredge still a competitive deck in Modern, and he makes a lot of good points. so you guys should check that out. So we still stick with Gravedigger's Cage in the sideboard, and Apostle's Blessing actually protects your Gravedigger's Cage. So target artifact or creature you control gains protection from whatever. So that is a nice. It is a nice little combo, and a lot of people don't see it coming. And then because it's a little harder for us to get cards into the yard, we have shaved down a copy of Become Immense. Okay. So because we can't put Gitaxian Probe in the yard for free, it is now, we're just going to run 3 copies of Become Immense. Alright, so that's the main board. Sideboard is very similar to what I used to play. I like having access to 4 copies of Spell Pierce. I think it's just a great card and really helps out in matches that we have a hard time against, mainly Grixis Control and Jund. Anything that has a main board copy of Kolaghan's Command is incredibly difficult to deal with, and then of course Liliana in Jund and Abzan is rough as well. Distortion Strike, another copy of Distortion Strike is really nice for those matches, you know, where something like Elves or something, or even Burn, it's nice to come in against just to deal with just getting through on the ground with Glistener Elf. Twisted Image, anything, if we see anything that can bring in Spellskite, Twisted Images come in. Bantel Drowsy is a big one. They have mainboard Spellskites, and it's also a nice answer for their Noble Hierarchs as well. Dismember, again, just a great removal spell. Fits in any deck. I like having access to 3 copies of it. Whenever we need another creature, the Dryad Arbor comes in. And anything that makes us sacrifice stuff is something that we're gonna look to Dryad Arbor for as well. Natural State is very good against the Infect matchup, and then Viridian Corruptor also comes in that instance. Viridian Corruptor is also our answer to Chalice of the Void. Chalice of the Void on 1 is beyond devastating for this deck, and we need a way to answer that. Viridian Corruptor is our answer. Not only, and the reason we play Viridian Corruptor instead of something like Naturalize or Seal of Primordium or something like that, I've seen in some deck lists. For 1 extra mana, it's nice to get the body on the field, especially like Chalice of the Void decks tend to run like in like the Nihiri Sun and Moon deck or whatever. They tend to run a lot of removal as well. So if they can run out the Chalice on 1 and then remove our Infect creatures, Viridian Corruptor is a nice way to get to tilt the tables back in our favor. Destroy the Chalice of the Void, and we now have an Infect creature that threatens next turn. Gravedigger's Cage for obvious reasons. I like to bring it in against Nihiri as well, because getting Emrakul is not fun. But it is mainly for the Dredge matchup. Alright, so that is the deck. Like I said, I really do like Infect as a deck, and I think this has the possibility to be good. But without Gitaxian Probe, I have not played Infect without Gitaxian Probe yet. So, we'll see how it goes. All right, we'll see you guys in round 1.